How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I successfully diagnosed a failed catalytic converter. By following these quick and simple steps and checks, you can do the exact same. Okay, so first of all, a bit of a background on this. The vehicle I was working on was a Nissan X-Trail, engine management light on with no performance issues. A quick scan of the vehicle showed that P0420 was present, which is catalyst efficiency low in bank 1. You can have a fault code of P0430, which is in bank 2. Any of those fault codes is the same testing process that you will be doing. Now, before we jump straight into the testing side of it, we do need to make sure that there is some parameters that we're meeting. Firstly, the performance of the vehicle is right, so no misfires or exhaust leaks present, and we need to confirm that it is running good. We can do that by the road test, and we also need to have the catalytic converter up to the correct operating temperature with the vehicle in what's called a closed loop setting. So that test drive, monitoring performance and getting it up to the correct temperature before we start the test. When it comes to the test, it is as simple as it comes. You can look at the fuel trims and make sure it's in the closed loop, but you're pulling up the oxygen sensors, number 1 and number 2. For anyone that's not aware, an oxygen sensor number 1 should be oscillating nice and fast, up and down, flicking like that. If you don't have a graph type of format like I have here, you're just looking at the volts going between 0 and 1, so it's going up and coming down, up and coming down. The oxygen sensor 2 though should be at a steady range, so whether it's between 0.4 or 0.5 or on the higher 0.7 to 0.8, it should be at a steady reading as you're driving. Now, when you're doing this test, and this has caught out mechanics in the past, make sure that you're doing it between 2 to 2.5 RPM. The vehicle needs to be under load, and why that's important is shown in this video here. If I was to just do that at idle, I would get an incorrect reading. So when we see this, which is the clip I'm inserting now, when we see a following pattern of the number 2 oxygen sensor to number 1, we have an issue that we need to rectify. The number 2 sensor should not follow number 1 like that, but at idle, so when I let off the throttle, it returns back to normal. And the reason for that is the chemical reaction that's happening in the catalytic converter. There can be enough of the material left, whereas at idle it can pass, but under load, when it needs more, then it will fail. And that is what was happening with this Nissan. At idle you have perfect readings, it's doing what it should, but once you rev it, it starts to mimic that number 1 sensor. So always do this test at a higher RPM. So with those readings, you can clearly see that there's an issue that needs to be rectified, that the catalytic converter is not doing what it should. You can do one other test as well, which is a very good test to do, and it is a temperature differential test. So if you have an infrared thermometer, most people have nowadays, you can get them really cheaply, and you measure on the inlet of the cat versus the outlet, you should see a good differential between the exhaust gas temperature. So the outlet should be much higher, and the reason for that is the catalytic converter, that chemical reaction that happens, raises the temperature within that cat. So the inlet should be lower than the outlet. If you're seeing a same reading, the inlet versus outlet, you have a problem, or even in some cases it could be lower. The temperature could be getting lower as it's going back, and that can be just the fact that the cat is just not doing what it should at all, and the temperature is dropping as it's moving back the exhaust. Now that you've diagnosed that the cat needs replacing, there is a couple other things that you need to bear in mind. If there's another underlying issue that's caused the cat to fail, the likes of oil issues, so if you have burning oil, or if you have a coolant loss, any of those that can damage the cat, even an intermittent misfire. If you have a customer that has explained that sometimes there's a performance issue, that unburned fuel that's going down there can cause it, but usually you would have a fault code related to a misfire being triggered in those cases. With the burning of the oil and with the coolant loss, you may have no additional fault codes whatsoever. So Do bear that in mind before you go and put an expensive cat in place. Check those items. Really hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it useful and informative. If you did, please like, share, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.